Welcome to Marc My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Marc My Words. If the words fierce and grace don't mean too much to you coming into clicking play and listening to this episode, I have a pretty good feeling that that attitude will change by the time you are done listening to this episode. And of course, that is pending my performance, obviously. But luckily, I have a tremendous guest in Jessie Torres to be here on Marc My Words today. She is the founder and owner of Fierce Grace Transformation, and she hopes to turn your pain into power and help you transcend the success of your life and business. And I am thrilled and honored to have Jessie on the show today. Welcome to Marc My Words. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Mark.
I am super excited to have you, and I can't wait to dive into not only your journey to entrepreneurship and just your journey in life. You quite a story, but you have a lot of wisdom, and you have at least two little guides that people can access that I at least know of that are just super informative and inspiring that I can't wait to get into. And I can't wait to actually let you talk. I feel like I've been doing all the talking between the pre-show here and now introducing you. So let me start kind of the way that I always do, and I always go to LinkedIn to kind of get a little bit of a window into what my guests are thinking when they're growing up and going into the real world, or perhaps they went to school. And unfortunately for me, I didn't find a whole lot. So I'm going to start by asking, what kind of things were you thinking about doing with your life growing up? And did you ever think about or have entrepreneurship in your thoughts or in your dreams at all?
That's such a great question. And I would actually say definitely not. I think that growing up for me was um, a big state of survival. And so it was more about making it through. And college was never even a conversation, let alone entrepreneurship. It was more of like, get a job, work, contribute to the family kind of thing. And so as it would go, my dad worked at the bank, and so my first job was at the bank. This is back in the day. I'm going to age myself now, when we actually stuffed the statements at the end of the month envelopes by hand. So, so it was more about getting a job and making sure that you can contribute and save, put money in savings and that kind of thing. And so that was my perspective, was more survival than it was even thinking that I could be an entrepreneur.
And I see you're kind of looking. Did you find your pen?
I did. I dropped it.
So I know what you mean as far as just being from a little bit further back, maybe before the internet really showed us the possibilities of what we can really do, because I never thought about entrepreneurship. It was just like, okay, I gotta get through school and I gotta go to college, I gotta get a job, and it was all these things that I felt I had to do. And it's like, well, entrepreneurship, that's for like rich people, or that's maybe for people who are like super duper smart. Maybe they went to like Harvard or UCLA, or, they're really
Now,
intuitive.
I will say this, now that I think about it when you said that, it's interesting because I never consciously thought about it. Because like you, I thought that's for super smart people and people with money. It's so weird that perspective. But I will say that when my kids were little, I did always do something to contribute, right? Because again, that was embedded. It's just like get a job, contribute. Well, when I had babies, after now I left my childhood and went into my marriage, um, I'm like, I have to contribute. But now we have talked about me staying home with the kids. And so I didn't work, but I always did something, whether it was babysitting and I actually did open up my first company when my boys were probably, I want to say 3, and my daughter was 1. And it was personal touch tees. And it was just t-shirts that I personalized and sold at craft fairs and whatnot. And so the entrepreneurship part began, but it was after I left the home. It was in that state of like, oh, I need to do something to contribute, even though I'm going to be home with the kids. I need to bring money in. So that was the mindset. I didn't think about it being an entrepreneur as much as I thought about I need to do something to contribute to the family.
And I'm proud of myself, not to my own horn, but as I've done more and more episodes and I try to open this way, I make sure not to just assume that everybody went to college, because that's not the case. And,
Right.
you don't have to go to college to become an entrepreneur and to be that kind of success. So that's one reason why I love having people with all different journeys on my show, just to show that, hey, you don't have to go to college to become, a success or an entrepreneur, to start your own business. And sometimes we have to learn from the school of real life, school of hard knocks, whatever reality school you want to go to. So I know that you had a particular journey. You have a story that's definitely has had its ups and downs, and I think it might be important if you want to share a little bit of your of that part of your journey, because I think it will kind of make everybody see how you wound up with the the business that you currently have.
Absolutely. And what I want to say to your audience really is that it doesn't matter what situation you're in at this moment, right? There is a way out. You have to fuel your dream. You have to fuel your dream and be mindful of dream stealers. And sometimes that could be our family, and it's not because they're cruel, it's just because they've given up on theirs. And it's hard to watch live yours, right? Or they just think, why don't you just get a job, get over it already, that kind of thing. And for me, in my history, my first 18 years of life was abuse with my father. Then the next 18 years of life was abuse with my husband, my marriage. And, from all of that, came a bunch of references or belief systems that I had created about myself. I felt dirty. I thought nobody would love me. I was living in a emotional home of shame. And, I was in survival most of my life. And then at 38, when now I came to that end of my marriage, at that point, before I ended my marriage, I was very apathetic. I had reached my peak of survival and wanted out. I just wanted out. I wanted out of this life because I didn't think divorce was an option, and I wanted to be done because I thought if this is life, then it's not worth living it. Now I had 3 kids at the time, so because of them, I did not take my own life. So, but I was praying for somebody to blow the red light, right? Because that's how much I carried one abuse into the other. And it's important for me to say that this isn't to vilify my father or my ex-husband. I love them both. I'm grateful for my entire journey at this stage of my life. However, it is what happened, right? And at that state of apathy and just wishing somebody would complete this journey for me. It was very difficult, but it was an act of kindness that actually shifted everything for me. So in those moments where you feel powerless or you feel like the world is going crazy and there's nothing you can do, there absolutely is, because your one act of kindness can change the trajectory of someone's life like it did mine. And the
And
people that behave that way will never know who they woke up. They will never know that they're I didn't even know to call it kindness at the time. I just knew that they woke something up, whatever little light was still inside me. I called it a short circuit moment. It fanned that fire and it gave me the courage and the strength to get out of my situation. And I didn't know to call it kindness. I just thought, you know what? If this feeling, whatever this is available, then life is worth living. And from that moment on, created an insatiable hunger to understand humanity. Then, because I was in such duress and my divorce was so traumatic, um, it's kind of like when you get so knocked down, the only way is up. It's like I'm not going to hang up my cleats. I know that. So what do I do? And I started to read. I started to go to my own therapy. I started to do all processes of healing and understanding. And after you coach people from all over the world, you realize it isn't where you come from or it isn't the culture. It's human beings and what we do with our experiences.
well, I have three thoughts, among probably others, but I'll start with 3 points that I felt were things I really connected with there. So, dream stealers are the bane of my existence, and
Hmm.
I feel like people have been trying to steal my dreams or have been trying to knock me down a peg since I can remember. And
Hmm.
I can go back all the way back pretty far to connect with what you're saying as far as dream stealers. And it takes a lot of strength and a lot of reflection to move past those dream stealers and to keep on going. It takes a lot of resilience and
Hmm.
among many other things, but I feel like I always view it whenever I really think about all this. I'm like, there must be something in me. Like I must be like, I don't know if I'm crazy or what it is that I never let these, dream stealers get me to a point where it's like I give up on chasing my own dreams. And I can relate to having a parent, and I never, I don't call people out by name and go on
Hmm.
rants or anything, but I used to at least reveal which parent it was, but I won't even do that here. Just, I know I got to a point where I landed a dream job. I worked really hard, got over a lot of things, and the best thing that they could say to me is, oh, that sounds like a scam. That doesn't sound like, a real job. And I'm just like, thanks. Like, thanks a lot. And
Congratulations might have been nicer.
that's coming from like my own family, like,
Right.
a parent. So it's just like, it can, dream stealers, they can be like right in front of you. They can be in your family. They can be classmates, friends, colleagues. They're all over. And
Yeah.
you have to try to be resilient. And I know you're itching to say more. Let me say 2 more things. You said that it was in your 30s that you really started going through a lot of the transformation. I always say, because it happened to me as well, when you're in your 30s, I feel like that is like the moment where you really just get to know yourself and you're like, okay, this is who I am. Like you come to terms. And I feel like that's a time when a lot of people, and me included, just said, hey, I need to pivot and make changes. And
Right.
I mean, I totally can relate to that time in your life. And yeah, I won't let you
Well,
bounce off and
it's so important to acknowledge because we didn't know, like, right, in those moments, like you're remembering that now, right? So obviously it impacted you. You know what I mean? And those can be little like, microchips that get inserted in our brain that now it's like, gosh, I can't believe they said that. And it can put a damper. So I always adopt it, and I don't always say to stay here, but when I was in my survival and I had people like that, I adopted the energy of tell me I can't so I could say watch me. Right?
yeah.
Now, what's great about that is that you do get outcomes. However, you don't have to prove anything. To everybody listening, you have nothing to prove, right? But that having to prove energy can fuel sometimes enough passion to get things done. But after a while, if you don't recognize that that's how you're living, it can be exhausting. And it's a endless road because it's never enough. You're always having to prove something else, something else, something else, right? But in those moments where you're in that state, it's okay to go, you know what? It's all right. You don't believe in me. I'm going to believe in me double time. You know what I mean? And again, there is nothing you can't do. There is no limitation to the human being, only the belief there is one, right? So if you start to see any limitations, just recognize that you can pull those weeds. You can pull those mind weeds all the time, but you have to be very diligent about what you feed your mind and start with really, really good, powerful questions. Our life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions we ask ourselves. Oftentimes, we don't ask ourselves good questions, such as, right, when something happens or some sort of challenge, my question used to be, what is wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Why did this happen, right? And I would go, what is wrong with me? It wakes up that saboteur voice, right? That little supervillain, I call it. And it says, what's wrong with you, Jessie? Thanks for asking. Here's all the things that are wrong with you, right? And it shows up to tell me. Now, I know now to ask a better question. How is this here for my highest and greatest good? What is the gift in this? What could be great about this? What muscle am I being called to build in this moment? So those questions entice the creative one, the curious one, the resourceful one, the superhero. And it calls that part of me forward because that part of me exists too. Now I get to figure it out.
Right. And I think it's very important to take a step back and ask yourself the hard questions. Because I think sometimes when we're plugging through life and we're taking the punches or we're getting knocked down, we just kind of take that energy and store ourselves away and say, well, this is what the world thinks of me. And
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not be true, but you still have the power to rise up above it and ask yourself, okay, what do I need to do? What needs to happen in order for me to obtain the happiness that I want in life or the things I want to accomplish or just, the peace that I want in my life. And I feel like not enough times do we really take a step back and try to understand ourselves and just our journey and where we're at.
Well, and let's face it, I'm going to ask you this, Mark. In a
Okay.
world of almost 8 billion or more now, I don't know what the number is it possible that we will be judged?
Yes.
100%, right? 100%. So now that we know we're going to be judged, can we get on with our bad selves? You know what I mean? Like, can we get on with our lives? Because we're going to be judged. It doesn't matter how saintly you are. You're going to get judged, but you're also going to get judged the other way. People are going to be inspired by you. They're going to be like, man, they stuck to their dream and they went for it. God, I wish I had that power. And you never know when you're being the lighthouse for somebody else that's watching, somebody else that's like, even though they may be the ones that were the naysayers in the beginning, but all they needed was you to stay consistent for them to go, shoot, you're doing it. Oh my God, you did it. Oh my God. So tell me, how did you do it? You know what I mean? And they're the ones that end up being your biggest cheerleader. That's why you gotta look, God in the universe placed whatever your dream is on your heart for a reason. Not anybody else's heart, your heart. And so you can only understand the divine choreography that's connected here. And you get to fuel that fire and hang around others that are doing similar to what you want. And success leaves clues, right? So follow the patterns, go around, be around people. Peer group is so important. Go around a community that actually uplifts you, raises you, sees your greatness, and constantly reminds you, not the ones that are ready to tell you, oh, come on, remember last year you screwed up that other thing? Or remember when you tried that thing and it failed? Or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're always a big talker, but you never, all that stuff, that starts to get to you. So you gotta make sure that you surround yourself with people that support you, honor you, and raise your dreams and sees the best of you.
And you actually say a lot there. I had a third point that I temporarily forgot that you reminded me of, which is one person. And I used to not really believe this as much, definitely believing it more as I get older. One person can really make a difference in your life. And I
Absolutely.
used to just say, no, that's baloney. But it's actually very true. And it can be something so insanely small that can make a difference. And it's amazing when you really look at the grand scheme of things. Look at your story. Look at maybe even like your day. Look at the past hour, and you'll see somebody or something that made difference, that turned it around for you and made you see something or think something or bring something to your life that would not have been there otherwise. And
Mhm.
I could go off on, you know, a spiritual rant and take that way further, but I'll leave it in more of an earthly uh, place. And I really, truly believe that more as I get older. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, like you said, that's a topic that we could really dive into, but there's definitely a lot more at play, right? I think also in our adversity or in our pain, sometimes we feel like, we're constantly getting an uppercut in life, and I get it. And when I hear stories like that, when I hear clients' stories and they tell me, the profoundness of some of the stuff they've been through, in my heart, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're up to big things. Like all I see is the greater, like, oh, if you've been through some dark times, and let me tell you, there is a light on the other side of you that you are about to meet. You know what I mean? Like if you think about the depth of your darkness is converse to the height of your light, then whatever it is you've experienced, whatever it is you've gone through, maybe, just maybe, it was that adversity that helped you find the deeper resolve. It helped you find courage you didn't know you had, right? It helped you find resourcefulness or creativity or perseverance, whatever that is, right? And so, again, we don't know what we've got sometimes until our knees hit the floor, right? But if God in the universe could whisper, hey, I know this really sucks right now, but if you knew what I know is coming, you'd understand why I need you to build this muscle in this moment. We don't get to know, we just get to get back up and keep going.
Well, speaking of getting up and keeping on going, let's talk a little bit because you had creative inspiration. You went and got certified as a certified results coach. Then you transitioned into Fierce Grace Transformation. Talk a little bit about the differences between that business and Fierce Grace and just the transformation and the transitions there from that to today.
Absolutely. My journey had me go through, like I said, I went on a kind of a little bit of an obsession, right? So I wanted to understand human beings. So I did go to trainings, workshops, seminars, and ultimately, in one of my therapy sessions, my coach, my therapist, I looked at her and I said, I want to do what you do, but that's a lot of school and a lot of time. And she said, at that point, it was like 2005. She said, you should be a coach. And I was like, what do you mean, like soccer coach? Like I coaching industry was not big then. And so she told me what it was, and I started doing some research, and I'm more of a hands-on learner. And so I went with CTI, which is Coaches Training Institute, and I went to through their certification program. And in going through that, you actually coach yourself, right? So I started to see the beauty of what it was to unpack all these things, and I fell in love with it. From that aspect, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and that blew my mind open. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to be a coach for the best coaching company in the world, right? So then I applied there, and that's a whole nother story of how I got there. And I worked there for 7 years, and there the beauty is because he has such a far reach, you coach people from all over the world. And so you really build massive muscle. Then I apprenticed for a year with a shaman. I wanted to be a healer amongst people in their healing process. So that was eye opening. So all of that, I went through Heart Math Institute, which studies the rhythm of the heart for the last some 40 years, which I absolutely love because I think that blends a spiritual conversation to a 3D reality, and became a trainer there. So I've all of these trainings, right? Sales training, whatever. But I got to tell you, Fierce Grace, and I did a rendition of Fierce Grace back in 2017. And it was really good. It was a compilation of all the things that I've learned and really good resources, really good tools. What it is today is a healing process because I believe that now in our world of personal development and being able to go to seminars and workshops and read books, we are mindsetting our way out of healing. And so what we're doing is we're knowing what to do. Oh, I know I got to think positive. I know affirmations. I know push through, don't think about the bad thoughts, think about the good thoughts. And so it's great. Those are good tools. But what's happening is we're not resolving the undiagnosed traumas that we all have. Every one of us. Doesn't matter if you had a beautiful upbringing. There might have been a teacher that said something, or the teacher's friend, or the visitor, or the child at school, or the guy at the supermarket. We make meaning in our unconscious conditioning. And so when we don't resolve those things and we go to the workshops and seminars, we are utilizing tools, but it's kind of like installing new software on an old operating system. What's going to happen? It's going to glitch, right? It's going to glitch, it's going to freeze because the operating system has not been upgraded to support the new program. And so it happens that with our bodies, our minds, our emotional state. We have new information, but when we find ourselves stuck again, then it invites a deeper level of shame because, well, I read the books, I went to the seminar. Why do I still feel stuck? Why do I still feel sad? And it's because we have this unresolved stuff we have not healed. And so Fierce Grace is a product of my own journey. It's coming from childhood abuse. It's coming from abuse in my marriage. It's coming from the murder of my two brothers. It's coming from all the times that I took an uppercut in life to get me to a place of understanding the divine order of all of my journey and loving every aspect of it. I wouldn't change a thing.
And
Now, there's parts of me that wishes my brothers were here, but again, that's not part of the divine order. So who am I to change it?
yeah, I mean, sometimes we almost need adversity in our lives. Not that I'm wishing for, like, for example, all the terrible things that you've had to deal with. You don't necessarily sit around wishing that on
Right.
people, but sometimes when you go through a bit of adversity, it builds character and it forces you to really ask those questions and to examine. And I think when we don't have enough of that, again, not wishing such deep obstacles on anybody, but when we don't have enough of that, sometimes it can, the smallest things can sometimes knock you down to like, I can't do that. And I give up. And that can lead you on a path that maybe you don't really feel very fulfilled, and maybe
Mhm.
you don't have the strength or the understanding of how much potential you actually have to get yourself out and to keep on going. And I
Well,
think
life
he's
is a journey of positive and negative. And what I mean, I don't mean good or bad. I mean charges, energetic charges. So it is polarity, right? We don't know light without knowing dark, right? And fierce grace is actually that. It's the masculine and the feminine. It's being ferocious and it's having grace and love, right? So how do we blend those two energies? Because we all have aspects of both. You have feminine in you and as you do masculine. I have masculine in me as I do feminine. The problem is that we get them confused and we're not sure where we're driving from. And the beauty and the strength and the power comes from navigating both. And in that, it means that being full of polarity, if we don't have those dark moments, we don't understand the joy, right? We become complacent. We become, status quo. We'll actually cause a fight just to have polarity because we get bored, right? If there was none of that. So to your point, yes, I think adversity is a big part of our journey. And again, it could be, it doesn't even have to be something big, a rape or a murder. It could be just, you had a great upbringing, but your mom took you to the grocery store when you were 5 and you were playing in the aisle, and she goes to the end of the aisle to grab something. She can see you, you can't see her. And you lift up your head and you scream, Mom, and she's like, I'm right here. In those 5 to 10 seconds, that little boy anchors abandonment, or I could be left behind. Right. So now he's extra clingy to mom, doesn't want her to leave the room, right? Wants to go with her wherever she goes. Now he's 35, wondering why he can't have a relationship because he's possessive, controlling, and insecure. Right. And he doesn't know to know. It's just like, no, I had a great upbringing. What do you mean? I don't understand. And it's just like, because it was an unconscious conditioning, you didn't know you created that meaning. That's why we have to unpack it. And that's why I go through the 3 pillars of trauma, which is undiagnosed, unacknowledged, and unresolved, right? And we all have them, right? The undiagnosed ones are the trickiest ones. They're the ones we don't know to know, right? He didn't know until we worked together that that was a product of why he was behaving the way he was today, right? Once he realized that, he's like, oh my God, it's a wound that just needed your love. And the minute we can go there and we can heal that, now he can look at perspective from today and behave differently because now he's in conscious choice.
I think you just had me thinking, oh my God, because everything you just said there was like, whoa, I mean, so from my perspective, so much truth just came out there. I mean,
Mhm.
there are a lot of people walking around, and I'm sure I'm even one of them. I may have an undiagnosed piece of baggage somewhere in me that causes me to act in a way in a certain situation that maybe I haven't even thought through yet. And that's coming from somebody who feels like they have given a ton of thought to this kind of thing. And I'll tell you just from the amount I have unwrapped, I mean, I feel it's very important not only to kind of get past the baggage so you can see your potential, but I also think it helps to just cater to having a more honest life and you're being honest with yourself. And I think as a result, you're going to be more honest in your day-to-day life. You're going to be more honest and more uh, upfront with the people you're allowing into your life. And
Mhm.
I feel like there was one thing that you said earlier that I really related to that I think ties in at least a little bit to what I am currently rambling on about, which is I you said that somebody approached you and said, "Hey, I think you would be a great coach." I had the same kind of experience with making content. I had a couple people approach me. This is back when I lived in the DC area. I was going to Lincoln Local like every month for a long while. It was an awesome group and it was a great opportunity to meet people and to I was in a big transformative period in my life and people kept telling me, you should think about making content. Have you ever thought about making a podcast? And I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, not really. And because I felt that imposter syndrome, being somebody who was born with cleft palate and lip, have a couple other issues that went along with it. I'm like, who's gonna want to listen to me? Who's gonna
Mm,
want to watch me? And a lot of that came from those outward judgments of me from as far back as I can remember, you know, teachers who thought I couldn't speak in front of a group or I couldn't be in a higher reading group, even though I read pretty well and,
mhm.
had a lot more potential and ability. Then it was a very dismissive attitude.
Yeah.
And you have to almost learn to adapt and to be resourceful and resilient. But it also helps when you meet those awesome people who do see your potential to kind of help you out over the top. And I
Absolutely.
really, after you.
No, I was just saying, absolutely. Everybody has a voice. David, or that was another gentleman that I did a podcast with. Same thing. It's kind of like, who's going to listen to me, or why, why should anybody want to listen to my podcast? And it's like, you know what, Mark, you matter. You matter, right? Whatever situation, you are a beautiful being, right? Of light, you matter, right? So even just being able to do this and having listeners, your desire to help them with entrepreneurship, that entrepreneurial mindset, that get outside your comfort zone, don't be trapped in a cubicle hell, like whatever it is. It's like you're aspirational in wanting to help people see the bigger picture. Like, God bless you for that. You know what I mean? Like, thank you for saying yes to that and moving through that imposter syndrome, because it's so prevalent. And now you get to pay that forward, right? Because you get to share it here, you get to express about it and vulnerably share, like, hey, this is what happened in the beginning, but here I am and you guys are listening. So you know what I mean? So how amazing. Because at the end of the day, my daughter and I have this conversation, and she wants to get into public speaking, and she's like, Mom, you know, I imagine being in front of this big audience, and, at the end of my talk, there's that one person in the back of the room with the slow clap. She goes, you know what? I was there for that person. You know what I mean? And that's all that matters. You know what I mean? Because that person matters, because they got something out of it. Then that's it. You already won. So thank you for being willing to step into it. And I hope that everybody's listening will really see the inspiration that is, because it does not matter what your situation is right now. You can do what you want. No, and earlier you were talking about, you didn't know if you were a little crazy or whatever. And I'm like, crazy, a little crazy is always good. You know what? It's the crazy ones that make all the difference. It's like being unapologetically you, a little cuckoo. You know why? Because we're not willing to ride the conveyor belt of life. We're not sheeple, right? We're willing to do the crazy. We're willing to, you know what? I'm going to go over here. I know everybody's going, but I'm going to go over here. And the next thing you know, you got a band of people that are going, I'm a little crazy too. Let's do it. Right. And those are the people that are praying for you, right? Praying for you to just say, you know what? I'm weird, guys. I'm a little up there and a little down there, and I'm a little over here and I'm a little over there, but that's me. And I'm here to deliver. I always use the reference of like Prince, Prince the singer. I mean, that guy, he just created new levels, to go out on a stage in front of thousands in a G string. You know what I mean? And just like, but you know what? But he owned it. Crazy? Absolutely. Would you do it? I don't know. I wouldn't. You know what I mean? So, but he's just like, I'm going to do it because this is me. It's who I am. And we loved him for it. We loved him for being unapologetically him. He wrote new ways, he did crazy things, and we loved it. And it wasn't what he was doing, it was the fact that he did it. So I'm always saying, you know what? Bring your weirdo self. I'm like, you're up, you're down, you're silly, you're crazy, you're passionate, you're moody, all of it. Because being unapologetically you is all God in the universe asks of you.
So, two things. A, I have to mention, since you brought up Prince, I do a thing, especially over the past few years, where I have more time. I work remotely, just my day job, and I'm just home more in general. So I've been going through the catalogs of like every artist that I like or have ever wanted to just listen to all their stuff. And Prince was one of the artists that I went through. Took me quite a few weeks because I'm listening to other things. But boy, what a ride. I mean, what an amazing talent. And that's why I have been doing that because it's like, well, if I listen to a little bit and then I forget or whatever, then all right, I'm not as big of a fan as I thought. But I went through every one of his albums and was just blown away. So I just wanted to connect with you on that while I was thinking about it. Secondly, as an entrepreneur, I feel like all of us, at least all the ones that I have talked to on this show, I feel you made a great point about just kind of going away from the flock and going in your own direction. And I feel like every one of us have that within us. And
Mhm.
I feel like if you're listening to this and you don't have your own business or you're kicking it around or you're moving very slowly with it, whatever it is, and you're feeling kind of the same way, I would say keep going with it and explore the potential because this may be a path that you want to really explore. I feel like we all are different in our own way. It's not like all entrepreneurs are exactly the same, but there are definitely characteristics that I have found that are very similar and that need to kind of like do your own thing and not to necessarily fit in, to be more uh, individual thinking, for lack of a better way to put that. I'm sure there's a better way to put that, but I think that's what makes all of us similar, and that's one of the many reasons why I love doing this.
Yes, and I love what you said. Keep going, guys. Like, and for me, there was a point where I actually burned my boats. And what I mean by that is I was in the corporate arena for 15 and a half years. I was working 10-hour days. I was going in on Saturdays till 2 o'clock. I was trying to raise three kids and I had clumps of hair falling out in the tub. I had heart palpitations. I went and got the heart monitor and they tested me and they said, yeah, we can, give you beta blockers to control your heart because it's skipping. And they knew that it was stress induced. And, at this point, I had taken my coaching certification, but I was trying to grow my business on my off time, but I was working 10-hour days, so it was really hard. And when the doctor said, I would take beta blockers for the rest of my life, I'm like, so wait a minute. So my heart palpitations is stress induced. You want me to take a pill to help with that so I can keep my stress? I'm like, I don't, that doesn't work for me. And I quit 2 weeks later and I never looked back. And from that aspect, having let go of that secureness, put a fire under my butt to get my coaching practice off the ground. So sometimes that's what we do. We burn our boats and we say, you know what? There's no going back. I burned the boats, right? So it's all in. And sometimes that's the fuel to get you going. Now, I know everybody has their own situation. I'm not all saying go quit your job, but I am saying that give yourself enough leverage to go do it. How much pain do you need to have before you follow your dream? Right? Just do it. Know that there is a possibility. And nowadays, there's so many ways that you can make extra money on the side, have a side hustle to start building capital to grow your business, find somebody that believes in you. There's angel investors. There's so many ways that you could do it now. Don't give up. Keep going. I promise it was placed on your heart for a reason.
And if you're like me and you have, oh, excuse me, I think I'm about to cough. Let me see if I can briefly. Okay, much better. That did not get on the episode. Perfect. That's what happens sometimes when you drink too much water. You think it's a good thing, and
Right.
sometimes it's not. But oh gosh, what the heck was I? I was gonna say
It
something good there, and that just
felt
kind
like
of.
it was profound.
But I didn't cough on the audio, and that is really what matters.
Good
Well,
job.
I appreciate that. One thing that I can talk about or ask you about, since I've been looking at it for like probably the past 2 or 3 hours, is to talk a little bit. I love this 10-step guide that you send
Hmm.
out, 10-step guide to freedom.
Freedom.
And it really kind of breaks down a little more what grace and fierce those words really mean to you. And I would love for you to encourage people to sign up to download that because I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Well, I would love that. It's definitely a free gift for your audience. And it's basically a guide to help you know that no matter what your circumstance is right now, there's a way out. There's a way to move forward and step into your dream. And, originally I'd written that for just having the situation that I was in where I felt there was no way out. I felt nobody would understand. I didn't reach out to anybody. I was in my own like lone wolf kind of like experience of believing nobody would understand or nobody would get me, or I had shame around even sharing. Right. So I wanted to build a quick guide that gives you steps that you can take right now, no matter what your situation, that will help you move the needle. And so it could be as simple as getting a book. Like back in the day when I was married, I never read. Like I literally, if I started a book and I read the first paragraph, I was sleeping. I just, and after my divorce, I just got more books, more. The first book I got was The Unmistakable Touch of Grace by Cheryl Richardson. And I don't remember the whole book, but I just remember there was one section of it that actually said something about shifting your beliefs. And it short circuited me. Again, I was like, you mean I don't have to believe the way I was taught to believe, that I can change it, that I can shift it, that there could be another life possible for me? I didn't know. Right? And so again, the value of books, the value of authors is tremendous. So there's so much you can do. The number one thing is feed your mind, feed your mind, feed your mind. You got to choose what you allow in here because society, the news, they're all trying to fill you in with all kinds of man's inhumanity to man. And I have to tell you, I get that it's out there, but light is still winning. Good is still winning. Okay. So rather than allow those things to infiltrate your mind and make you feel hopeless, go and grab a box of tissues, turn off your phone, and Google random acts of kindness. And go watch the beauty that's happening in the world right now at the same time that there's chaos. We're not taught, we're not shown. It's out there, and that could be you. It could be the hand that you give. Find purpose in what you do. I don't care if you freaking make widgets at a factory, right? The widgets are going on the airplane that's going to take me or my child across the country. Thank you for doing a great job. Right? But if you don't find purpose and it becomes a job and you feel a slave to it, then there's something else for you. There's something else for you that you can find a deep purpose in. And we need you because we need the authentic leaders to step up. And you will be amongst those light bearers. And right now, in the world of chaos, we need you to step forward.
I totally agree. I mean, you have to take it upon yourself and look within. And I really think that this 10-step guide to freedom, among everything else that you're offering and saying, I mean, this really breaks it down. And I feel like not only do you have to find grace, you have to show yourself grace as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it took me a long time to learn that because you get into patterns of negative self-talk and you say things about yourself like, oh, that's so stupid, I'm so stupid. But
Right.
you're only human and you're gonna do stupid things, you're gonna make mistakes, and not to sound like Billy Joel, but I mean you're gonna make mistakes. You're only human and you gotta show yourself grace. You gotta be able to get up the next day and try again. And I always go back to intuition. And if your intuition is really speaking to you and telling you that you should be trying to accomplish something or go for something, don't let anything like a setback or anything that goes wrong, don't let it keep you from continuing on and chasing your dreams. Because while this episode you may listen to it and say, wow, that was great, go to the next one, that was great, probably tooting my own horn here, but stay with me just as an example. You may listen to some episodes and think, wow, this guy's really got like so much going on. It's perfect. It's not always easy. Sometimes
Mhm.
things go wrong. Sometimes somebody may not be the right fit or whatever. These are all things that you're probably never going to hear or come across, but it does happen. And that goes for any business or anything in life, whatever your goals are, you're going to have setbacks. Things are going to happen that are going to make you feel gutted. They're going to make you feel like I can't do that or I should give up. I should try something else. And I've had a few moments with this show where I'm like, oh, like this just isn't going right. But my gut just kept telling me to keep going and look at some of the positives. There have been a lot of positives and some reassurance. And you got to try to look at the good and keep on going. And as long as your gut is telling you to do it, listen to your gut.
Do it. Do it. It's like you said something about mistakes, and once you start to understand the divine order of everything, is there ever really a mistake or is it a learning opportunity? Right? The only way we learn is by doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Like, when we have those, and sometimes it's because we needed that, right? To never do it again, right? To know that, oof, no, I won't do that again. You know what I mean? So again, it's all mindset, right? We choose to look at it as like, oh my God, I screwed up versus, ooh, okay, not doing that again, right? And even as we get closer to the end of the year, guys, look at your year and do a feedback sandwich. Go back through your year and write down all the amazing things, all the great things that you can remember that you did. And then write some things like, "Ooh, I don't want to bring that memory. I don't want to bring that into my future." And write those down because again, they were learning opportunities, right? They happened in this year for a reason. So when you start to get conscious around it, you do what was great, what can be improved, and then close it with another what was great. And so that ultimately tells your essence that I'm not a screw up, right? I'm actually freaking in my Navy SEAL version of learning, right? Because here's all the things that I don't want to repeat. So thank you for the lesson. I'm not going to repeat those. I got it and move forward because life is full of them. What if they were just challenges that we actually called on because we knew we needed to build muscle, right? If I only lift a 10-pound weight my whole life, I'm only going to get 10 pounds worth of muscle. If I want to grow more muscle, I'm going to need more resistance. That's how our challenges are, right? If we're going to evolve, if we're going to spiritually open and we're going to get more to that place of like resonance and joy and happiness, then the challenges are here to mold us into that beautiful masterpiece so that we can soften our edges, not sharpen our edges to beat ourselves up, but rather see them as feedback as to how I choose to do things moving forward.
Well, I wish that we had like another hour to talk and make this a 2 hour episode, but I don't want to hold up your day. And I will instead allow you to give all of us a feedback sandwich and tell us how people can work with you, how they can find you, and anything else you want to add.
Absolutely. I have a website and it's I am fiercegrace.com. Right. So in fiercegrace.com, what you will find is how to work with me, or even if you don't know, just schedule a call with me. You can click on the one-on-one session and it's a free call and it's just a way for me to just talk to you, help you get clarity and see if there's an opportunity. I have opportunities for speaking engagements. I have opportunities for one-on-one coaching, as well as my program, which is that trauma program that helps people come to their own sovereignty, their own power, so that they don't live with the unconscious, conditioning that was built when we didn't know better. So let's resolve those so that you can be the best version of you, what I call the superhero, the inner superhero. So that's how you can get a hold of me. I also have a women's mastermind group that I'm launching actually on the 11th of November, and it's Tender Warriors. And that's for women that are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the ones that, want to lead with heart, right? They have a business, they want to move forward, or they want to be the best mama in the world, like whatever it is. I think that we need to collaborate, come together, and hold each other up, and start to build a home where we can share and we can let our hair down and be, because a lot of high achieving women, they don't even know how to rest, right? Because they take it all on. They think they have to do it all. And so I want to give them a place for respite and a place for collaboration and growth. But all of that is on the website. You'll find it. And of course, I'd love for you to log in and get the free 10-step guide to freedom, to help support you. And any questions you may have, just send them my way.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom. This was incredible. And not to keep referring to your 10-step guide to freedom, but if nothing else convinced me this was going to be a lot of fun. I knew after reading that this was going to be so great. You're great
Thank
with
you so much.
words, and I really had fun listening and talking to you today. And just want to again say this was Jessie Torres of Fierce Grace Transformation. She is the owner and founder, and go check her out. She has so much wisdom, and keep doing what you're doing, because I think everybody needs to hear from you, and they need to hear some of the things you're trying to put out there. It's great energy, and
Thank you so much.
thank you for taking time out of your day.
Of
And
course.
thank you all for listening to Mark My Words. I am, as always, Mark Schmidt. That will never change. And this was Jessie Torres. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt, or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.